Because I'd like to talk a little bit about Van's philosophy. Always striving to exceed your highest expectations. Van is relentless in his pursuit of providing the best level of service possible to all of you. We certainly acknowledge we're not perfect, but I can tell you there is a driving passion to make sure we do the best job we possibly can each and every single day. We recognize there are no sales without education. Quite frankly, sometimes sales is selling education so that you then in turn can make the sale. Carrying the full product line is something which is critically important. You know, and I often use the example of car dealerships. You know, if you had a Toyota dealership and you only sold, you know, the Toyota Corolla and you didn't carry the Camry and the 4Runner and all the other ones, you know, you might sell some of that particular car, but if you have the whole product line, your sales of every single product would actually go up. It's the same if you imagine a restaurant that only sold chicken. I'm sure you would get sales in chicken, but if you add steak and fish to the menu, you'd attract more customers and your sales of chicken would actually go up. Carrying the full product line is very, very important. Advertising. We do a lot of advertising here in the US to support our US distributors, and then internationally we have a lot of cooperative programs where we help support local advertising. It's obviously too much of a task for us to manage from here, but we do provide support, and we recognize that advertising is critical to all of our successes. And social media, we're going to talk quite a lot about social media in the marketing presentation, and it is again something Van is very, very passionate about. If you reach out to him on Facebook, within an hour or two he will answer you, and that's any time, day or night, because he doesn't sleep. And you will get a reply, and he gets quite upset if someone from the company has not replied, and it's something he feels very, very strongly about, and it's something of our future. And that is to be recognized globally as the premier provider of hair care products while maintaining uncompromised principles of quality and excellent customer service. And that is something that we try and achieve every single day. And at some point we will get there, but it is something that we do aspire to. And I'd love everybody here to share in the same vision. Looking at the history of the company. So the company started from humble beginnings. So this was the first logo that the company had, and this is where it actually did start. Not that long ago, a few years ago. 2008, moving to a more traditional warehouse, still maintaining that logo. And it was round about this time Vanderlei was telling me a story one day where he was building the company and he had the inventory of the company on a nightstand next to his bed. He had the entire product portfolio. Every single thing the company owned that we're going to sell was sitting on a nightstand next to his bed. And that was about 4 years ago. And then today, of course, all of you are here, just to give you some idea of how quickly the company has grown. In 2009, we moved to the office that, for those of you who have been to our office, this is about 25 miles north of here in Fort Lauderdale. And this is where we are today. At this point, Van started hiring additional people whose last name was not Tabola, because at that point, pretty much everybody was a relative. He actually convinced people to come and work for him. And then we launched an outbound sales department. So things were really beginning to grow and build momentum. Up until this point, Van has always been very aggressive about going to trade shows, and I think that the success of the company is due quite largely to the participation in trade shows that we've been in. But in 2009, when this space expanded, we actually added a stage and started doing demonstrations up on a stage. And this really changes people's perceptions. And many people have commented to me when they come and see some of our shows, particularly now, you know, places like Premier Orlando and Salon International, where we have quite an extensive presence, and we have a room not too dissimilar to what we have here of people watching the demonstrations on stage. You know, you often reflect as to how did that start, and how did you get to that point? Well, this was the very first step into moving into that point. So 2009 continued with more exciting changes. The logo changed, the one which I think is perhaps more familiar to most of you, commonly referred to in the office as the bug logo, because it does look a little bit like a bug, I think. We also opened Australia in 2009, which is, you know, you think we would have started with Mexico or Canada or somewhere closer to home, but Van seizing every single opportunity that was presented to him, grabbed an opportunity to open a distribution in Australia, which proved to be quite successful for us. We also opened our education salon in our office in Fort Lauderdale. And this office you may recognize from some of the videos that we have posted on YouTube. We do a lot of photography in there, a lot of video work. We do a lot of product testing, product demonstrations, and we take care of our VIP clients and anybody else in the office. Again, in 2009, we added the first branded tool to the portfolio, this flat iron that you see here. I mean, now we have a very extensive range of tools, from brushes and combs and bowls and capes and t-shirts and etc. But this was when we first started adding those tools to the portfolio. And we had the first certification class at a trade show in Miami. We now run extensive education and certification classes at every single trade show, and it's proved to be a very successful vehicle for us, and something that, you know, I hope our international distributors take advantage of. And we also opened France, which continues to be our strongest distributor and our strongest country. Patrick over there. 2010, the development continued, and it was beginning of 2010 that we introduced Juvexen into our products. And Juvexen, as I'm sure you know, is our proprietary blend of peptides and proteins. It is something proven to improve the health of the hair. We put it in every single product that we have, and it is the one thing well, not the one thing, it is the main thing which separates us from pretty much all of our competition, is the ingredient Juvexen. And you know, I've heard people say to me at many points around the world in different trade shows that I've been to personally, and I'm sure it's happened to you, that when they start talking about our products compared to our competitors' products, they say, hey, but we have Juvexen. And it's something we've invested a lot of money. It is not a cheap ingredient. We spent a lot of money marketing the fact we have it, and adding it to our products, including our oil hair color. And it's in every product we have. It extends the life of our treatment, and it's really important that we keep pushing that ingredient. We also launched the first aftercare line early in 2010, which included the leave-in spray, the leave-in cream, and the serum. As you're obviously aware, we've added a lot more to the portfolio since then, but this is when these first bottles arrived in 2010. We also, and this one always, whenever I reflect on this, always kind of amazes me, that it was in 2010 that the first time certainly that we noticed that we got mentioned in anything online. If you Google now the name GK Hair, VTB, Global Keratin, you will see pages and pages and pages of information about us from all kinds of different places and different sources. But the very first one happened early in 2010. And we also opened very early in 2010 a call center in Costa Rica, which we still have today. Originally, we started it to try and get people to educational classes, and that's when we were a little bit lower on distributors in the US. Now that we've increased the number of distributors, that it's actually acting as a back office to help our salespeople out in the field, help us place orders, make sure things get followed through and delivered on time. Also in 2010, we opened our first warehouse overseas in France, and shortly after that we opened another one in Dubai. Now, I often reflect back on, as the company had grown, and you've seen the pictures of the initial offices. For us to go and launch a warehouse in another continent, is a pretty ambitious project, because you've got to have enough product in that warehouse to supply all of your distributors. And if somebody wants a pallet of shampoo or a pallet of this, if they take all of your inventory and the next person calls up and says, well, I want some shampoo, it's like, I've sold it all to the last guy. You're not going to do business very quickly. So we had to send 3 40-foot containers of product from our Fort Lauderdale warehouse over to France and to Dubai to ensure we had sufficient product over there to supply our customers. When you put a container on the water going over to Europe from here, it takes 6 to 8 weeks before it actually gets there, clears customs, and it's available for sale. So you have to pay for that product, put it on the water, get it to the warehouse, then try and sell it to someone, hope you get paid, and then you can start the whole cycle again. So for us to ramp the company up to the point where we had sufficient inventory to not only supply people who we were supplying out of our Fort Lauderdale warehouse, but then to build up these 2 other warehouses was a huge undertaking that Vanderleet pushed very hard for us to get done as quickly as possible. Now we're established, and obviously the cycle is a little bit easier. But at that time, it was a pretty scary evolution as a small company was becoming a medium-sized company, was becoming a bigger company. So with increased growth and increased success came increased expenditure, and we started to advertise. And the first time that we advertised was in 2010 in Modern Salon. I don't think today you can open up a trade publication without seeing an ad of ours or an online mention. But this was when we started early in 2010. We also launched Spain and Italy in 2010, 2 very successful countries for us. And then 2010 continued with our footprint in the Middle East, starting in Saudi Arabia. And at this point, or up until this point, as the company had been growing quite dramatically, our education had been uncoordinated, for want of a better expression. We had a number of educators in a number of different places, but we hadn't brought everybody together at the same time to ensure that we had a common message, common theme, common way of training and making sure they were hearing it directly from us. This is something that we do on an extensively regular basis, and I know that many people in this room have sent people to our offices. Every couple of months we have an on-site educational training in our Fort Lauderdale office, as well as the ones we have out in the field. And we bring all our educators together on a regular basis, and this is now happening internationally, so we can ensure that we are giving the most current information to our educators. We have monthly conference calls globally, Skype calls. The amount of communication to ensure that we have continuity of information is now very, very, very extensive. We also relaunched Global Keratin in the UK at the end of 2010. At the end of 2010, as I said, at the beginning of 2010, we had our first advertisement. By the end of 2010, we were spending a huge amount of money advertising in many trade magazines, not just here, the UK and a few other countries. And it's something that we continue to this day. It's something we think is very important, not only for the success of the company, but the success of everybody in this room. It's so much easier to see a product that people are familiar with, that they've seen marketed, that they've seen advertised. At the end of 2010 was when we saw the end of the Bug logo, and we rebranded the company to GK Hair. From the day I joined the company, this was something that Van had spoken to me about. That's something that he wanted to do. He felt that the name of the company was too. It made us too insular. It put us in a very small box. When your name is Global Keratin, it makes you just a keratin company. And it doesn't really, you start selling something outside of keratin and people are not sure that really fits in with what you're doing. And as you also know, keratin in some places is not as good a word as it used to be. It's still an okay word, but it was something that Van had always wrestled with, and he mulls these things over and talks about, and eventually we went and he drove the change to GK Hair. And I think it really does reflect a hair company now, and not just a keratin company with a taming system. And as we expand, and you're aware that we have hair color and other products and aftercare products, this is a name that will carry us a long time, into the future. It was also at this time that Van pushed the orange color of the company, which you now see everywhere and everything you do. And I always find it very interesting. You can just grab any magazine and you can just flick through really quickly like a deck of cards, and you will see our ad, because you'll pick up the orange. Nobody else has the orange. And you look at the posters around the world, around the room, the bags, everything else, it has this constant orange theme to it. And even our photography now, when you see our models, they're on an orange background. It makes it very distinctive, It's something that we feel we now own, the color orange, in this space. I don't think anybody else would try and, well, some people have tried to tag along, and we've had people send them letters to tell them to stop. But it is our color, and it's something that we feel, very passionately about. 2011, we started with our most ambitious product yet. Van had wanted to get into hair color for quite some time. He had spent a lot of time researching and meeting with people and finding, just the right company to help us in the development of our hair color. Van feels very passionately, as any of you know who've spent time talking to him, that he never wants to have a me too. He doesn't want to have a hair color that everybody else has and we'll go sell that hair color. He always wants to be on the cutting edge. He wants to be different. He wants to be unique. He wants to have a selling competitive advantage. And oil hair color is the next generation in hair color. It is ammonia-free. It's healthier for the hair. The people that have used it and played with it and seen it demonstrated, absolutely love it and can tell the difference between that and an ammonia-based hair color. And it really is different, cutting edge, and you're going to see a lot more about hair color to go. It's another expensive hobby to get into, because when you start off with 40 shades and high-lift blondes and bleaches and all the rest of it, and people want one of that and two of that and six of that, and you have to order thousands and thousands of each shade, you've got to build a huge inventory before you can start selling it. We now have a complete inventory of hair color, both in Europe and here in the US. So the respective salespeople will be taking your orders before you leave the room today to ensure that we empty out those warehouses. We're running through 3 or 4 years of the company's evolution quite quickly. And the company actually started with a name that Van came up with, and then it got changed. And then he came up with the name Global Keratin, and it was a pretty good name at the time. So that became the name of the company, and it was also the name of the product. Then all of a sudden, the product name got changed from Global Keratin to GK Hair, and it was getting rather confusing. And so in a brainstorming session, collectively we came up with the name of Vantaboli Beauty. And so VTB is now, when we changed the name of the company, of the corporation, I should say, to Vantaboli Beauty, and that is now the umbrella that sits over all of our products and all of our brands and all of our magazines. And you will start to see, if you haven't noticed already, in the bottom right-hand corner of our videos, of our magazines, of our advertisements, powered by VTB. And this is a name I think you're going to see more and more and more in many places around the world as we continue to grow and we continue to expand. And we launched the best. This is a absolutely revolutionary product. It is fully customizable. You don't have to buy 3 different strands or 3 different bottles. It works on all hair types. There are definitely some skills that have to be mastered by the stylists who are applying the product, as Colleen will explain. I like to describe the old methylene glycol-based products that anybody could use this product, and the product did all the work. I mean, you could be a sloppy hairdresser and still get magnificent results. With this product, you have to be a good hairdresser. And I think that applies to hair color as well, that if you're a good colorist, you're going to get a good result. And if you're good at applying this product, you're going to get a good result. But it does require skills of the hairdresser to get the right result. And so when we're transitioning from people from one product to another, this is something that you all have to be very cognizant of. I can assure you the performance of this product is better than our previous formaldehyde, methylene glycol, whatever you want to call it, base products. It is better. It can straighten, smooth, tame very unruly hair, very curly hair, or it can just defrizz hair. It's fully customizable, but you have to know and you have to take the training in how to operate it. Everybody does. All our competitors do. What we have done historically in the past is show a before picture and an after picture. And Van came in the office one day and said, everybody has a great after picture, because you're taking a picture of a girl that just had the treatment done, just had it flat ironed. She loves her hair, has got a radiant smile, the hair looks fantastic. He's like, we can't sell that. Everybody does that. So what we've started to do is to start to show the hair 1 week later after it's air dried. And as you can see, the hair still looks pretty amazing. 1 week later, air dried. You know, and we have extensive pictures that we could show you 2 weeks and 3 weeks. But I just really wanted to highlight the way that we're trying to show this product is in a real situation. And going back to Van's philosophy about open, honesty, and transparency, this is honest. This is honest marketing. The picture in the middle is really not honest marketing, it's marketing. You know, so this is a fantastic product that everybody's going to get hugely excited about. So what are stylists saying about the Best?
I had the opportunity to use it on her hair. It was very dull, it was dry, brittle, and when she left after I processed the Best for 40 minutes, she left with her hair shiny, bouncy, and more manageable.
The Best is amazing. It is an amazing system filled with proteins and peptides that will make the hair beautiful, healthy, and frizz-free. Since we have launched this, my business has gone up so much that I am truly amazed. So I just want to thank GK for bringing us an incredible product that it helps boost our business and gives our clients incredible hair.
My favourite things about it is that the client actually gets to leave with clean hair on the day because we do rinse the hair. And there's no wait time for shampooing, no wait time for workouts. So forget the rest and try the Best.
I love the Best. I have to tell you, it is controlling unwanted frizz and curl like no other product. My clients love it. The results are beautiful. The shine. It has enhanced my business as well, and I'm proud to be a part of the team, and I'm just excited to share this with you. So get out there and get the Best. I have one thing to say. I tried all the rest, I put them to the test, and I chose the Best. Take care.
Also in 2011, we launched our schools program. This is again something that Van had been pushing for some time. The students of today are our customers of tomorrow. And while this is not really a revenue generating opportunity, what it is something that we're laying the foundation for the future of all of us. By getting students familiar with our products, getting them used to our products, getting them comfortable with our products, when they move into salons of their own, they themselves will want to continue to use our products. So we think this is a very healthy investment and a very healthy strategy as we move forward. International office expansion. During last year, we embarked upon yet another quite ambitious project. This was led in part by our taxation position, so we could improve the health of the company financially, but it was more led by Van's desire to ensure we provide the best service possible that we can to each one of you. And while we all work in an office here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 5 hours behind London time or Greenwich Mean Time or Zulu time, whatever you want to call it, and we are trying to support a network that's in Europe, that's in the Middle East, that's in South Africa, that's in Cairo, that's in Saudi Arabia, that's in Australia, that's in the Philippines, that's all over the planet, it becomes really difficult. We've had people in the office at midnight making phone calls to people and the rest of it, and you can do that short term, but you cannot continue to do that. And the only way that we're going to continue to build this global brand is to get as close to our customers as we possibly can, to provide the best level of support that we possibly can to them in their time zone, or as close to their time zone as we possibly can. So obviously we have our USA office, and as I mentioned, we have our office in Costa Rica that provides support, to the USA office and after hours. We now have an office in Ireland, which Van and Megan spend a fair amount of time there. We also have a UK employee, Emerson, who some of you have worked with. And that office is beginning the expansion of VTB internationally, so we can get much closer to our customers in Europe and in the Middle East. Much more convenient time zone to do so. We also opened an office in Italy. A lot of that had to do with the fact that we now have a warehouse in Italy, and it gets really complicated if you have a company in Ireland and you've got a warehouse in Italy and you're selling goods to this one. It just became a lot simpler if we had a company in Italy in order to manage that operation. We've also applied to open a company in China. And for those of you who have any experience in this, it takes a very long time to open a company in China, and once you've opened the company in China, then you've got to do this whole other thing with all these other paperwork, and that takes a whole bunch of time as well. But if you can get through all of that process, and you can actually open the company and get all the registrations and get all the authorities that you need in order to do business, China can be two things for us. One, it can be a huge market, and two, it gives us a much greater leverage on some of the suppliers who we use in that local market. So this is another ambitious project that we've embarked upon. But Van, who has an uncanny ability to see down the street, round the corner, and down the street again before anybody else can, is driving these decisions today so that we'll take advantage of them next year, maybe a little bit after that. But if you don't start planting the seeds now, there's no fruit to pick from the tree a little bit later, in the same way with our schools program that we've also launched. We opened Brazil a few months ago. Brazil is another very difficult country to do business in. It's a bit of a protectionist country, so importation duties are quite expensive. Doing business in the country is a little bit complicated, and paperwork it's lots of red tape. But we've started doing a small operation in Brazil. Van honestly believes that Brazil can be bigger than the United States in terms of potential revenue, which, you know, if that's true, that would be hugely exciting. And lastly, we opened Australia. And we have an office in Australia. We have employees in Australia. We're selling quite aggressively in Australia. It's quite an interesting market. For those of you who have any familiarity with it, everything is like twice as expensive in Australia. What you pay people, what it costs to eat, it's ridiculously expensive. But what that also means is you can sell your product for a little bit more money. So it's kind of a bit of a win-lose-win sort of situation. But it's hugely exciting that we now have employees in, I think, 5 continents now, representing the company as we continue, this expansion. And when you come back next year to this conference, there may be a few other boxes on there. But the intent of sharing this information with you is not necessarily for your benefit, but to show you what a progressive company this is and how we are a forward-thinking company, and trying to put all the right seeds in the ground so that we have the right fruit to harvest as the company moves forward. So, where are we today? We're selling in 55 countries around the world, and if Van has his way, there will not be a lot of white left on that map the next time that you see it. We also continue to participate in all major trade shows around the world. We went to 44 trade shows last year, which Van personally attended a huge number of those. And for those of you who go to trade shows on a regular basis, it stops becoming fun after the third one. And when you go to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, you're standing around on your feet on carpet with no padding. It's not all fun and games. So it's pretty extensive work, and we have quite an army of people that support us in these trade shows. But we really believe passionately that this is one of the reasons the company has been so successful is our presentation in trade shows. And if you've been to a trade show and you've seen us, out of your normal territory, and you walk in, it's like, wow, that's the company who I work with. It's a pretty impressive feat. I mean, I go to some of the international trade shows. I don't go to anywhere near as many as Van does. And people come up to me from all kinds of countries and, start talking to me, and I distribute your product here, distribute your product here. And I think it gives a lot of reassurance to our customers that this is a brand that they want to do business with. We're continuing to invest heavily. About 700,000 in circulation on a monthly basis, and as I stressed before, this is something which is equally supportive of the brand and key to our success. We now, if you remember, I shared with you at the beginning of 2010 was our first online mention in a blog, and now we get mentions, you know, every single month. We have a team of people back in our headquarters that are regularly sending out stuff to magazines and getting us mentioned in interviews, and people talking to Van all over the place. And you know, it's keeping the name of the company moving forward, and there's quite a lot of support work that goes in here. We've also significantly expanded our, you know, our warehousing and our logistic capabilities, and maybe if this one will play, I'll show you a short. And as you can see, I think it's 8 warehouses that we have around the world now supplying our customers. I'm coming towards the end of the presentation here, but I did want to share with you just a philosophy that, and I've spoken a lot about Van driving the company and his philosophy, and make no bones about it, he is the person that pushes everybody very, very hard all day long to do the best job possibly. And he commented the other day that customers are just like people sitting on a park bench. They're waiting for something better to come along. And this really struck me because it's true. And if you think about it, you could have your favorite restaurant that you go to in your favorite town, and all of a sudden a new restaurant opens up. Forget that one, you've got to go try out the new restaurant. And all of a sudden, all your loyalty and everything you thought about to that restaurant, it's gone. Same with the latest car. You could have, you know, a BMW or whatever it is, and you bought that car every generation, and all of a sudden, Lexus comes up with another one, or Mercedes comes up, oh, something's better's come along. Let me go and jump on board here. And that's what customers are. They're people who are waiting for something better to come along. And this graphic, I think, helps explain some of that. It doesn't matter what you buy, whether you buy a product or whether you buy a service, whether you rent a car, whether you buy a TV, you generally go through this exact same process. You learn about the product, you order it, you get it, you use it, and you pay for it. If it's a service, you may pay for it before you use it, or if it's a commodity, you may use it before you may pay for it before you use it. But then depending upon how that process was and how the performance of that thing was, depends upon whether or not you decide to do it again, whether you decide to renew again. And how do our customers rate their experience? You know, it's up to every single person in this room to provide the best service possible that we can to our collective customers. You know, and everybody is a customer. I mean, there's a food chain that goes along with people who get sold and all the rest of it. But really, you know, this idea that customers are just sitting on a park bench is something that really resonated with me, and I hope it does with you, and it's something that Van pushes through our organization, and I would love to see it get pushed all the way down to the people who are actually meeting the people at the salons to ensure that we collectively provide the best service that we possibly can to our customers every single day and every single occasion.